Hey boys and girls, welcome to another super exciting, outrageous toy review. Today, we're talking about Bucky O'Hare. My friend Pixel Dan just put out an episode of Toy Explosion going over the Bucky O'Hare line, the history of it, and everything, and it's a really awesome episode. I highly recommend you guys check that out. But I've been meaning to make this video for a while, and I thought it was perfect to release it right after Dan's video came out when I found out he was working on a Bucky O'Hare episode. So I've owned these Bucky O'Hare figures for a while. These are all loose yard sale and toy show finds that are totally incomplete. None of them have accessories. But just recently at a toy store in Allentown, New Jersey called Tinkerbee Toys, I picked up a lot of figures that were more complete and a vehicle. So I've got some more army builders here for the Toad Troopers. I've got another Toad Borg. I've got a second version of the Toad Air Marshal, but this time he's got some of his accessories. I got another Bucky, this time with his blaster. I got Deadeye Duck with all four of his blasters. I got a blaster for another character, and I got the coolest of the Bucky O'Hare vehicles, the Double Bubble. Alright, we're going to zoom in for some close-up shots so you guys can take a better look at these Bucky O'Hare toys. Here's a closer look at some of these figures. When I was a kid, I remember seeing Bucky O'Hare in the store. I knew that it was a comic book character. Eventually I saw the cartoon show, but I think only ever the one episode. There was one episode written by my best friend's dad, Doug Mensch, who was a comic book writer at the time, and he had written some other TV stuff. He wrote an episode about Complex sending out a brainwave signal over the TVs to, like, enslave all the civilians. I think that was the only episode of the show I ever saw. But I saw the toys in the store quite a bit, and I always thought they looked cool, but I just never bit the bullet because as a kid I focused on one specific toy line at a time mostly. Like when I collected G.I. Joe, that's all I was into. And then eventually I moved on to Ninja Turtles, but then I was just totally into Ninja Turtles. And I knew if I started collecting Ninja Turtles and Bucky and Terminator 2 figures and whatever else, I wouldn't get as many figures from any line. So I might end up with a Bucky and a Leonardo and a Terminator, but I would never get all four Turtles and the bad guys. So I was very focused on my toy collecting as a kid, and that's why I skipped over Bucky. Later, I started finding them at yard sales and toy shows, and I pick them up a lot for $1 or $2 here and there with no weapons. The reason I bought duplicates of a bunch of the guys is that I just thought it was really cool to finally get some of their accessories. Plus, I wanted the vehicle, and I was kind of excited about Army building some of the Toad Troopers. But let's take a closer look at Bucky. Both of these figures are in nice shape. The yellows are very bright. The red is vivid. There's a little bit of paint wear on this guy's toes right here. So I kind of think this Bucky is going to be the one that stays in my collection, which he is the first one I had. I do like the paintwork on the back of the cape, but this guy's got the Bucky laser pistol. So I think this one's going to get to keep it and reign supreme as the captain of the righteous indignation in my collection. Over here I've got Commander Dogstar. Commander Dogstar is the leader of another ship. I don't really remember him from the cartoon, but like I said, I think I only ever saw one episode. He wasn't in the comics, so I've never read, anything about him that way. He's obviously missing his weapon, but he's still pretty cool. There's actually, it looks like a peg stuck in his back. I wonder if there's either not a hole there and that's just a paint spot, or something got broken off in there. I can't really tell which. I don't know. But that's Commander Dogstar. I've had Deadeye Duck for quite a while in my collection, but of course missing all four of his blasters. I just picked up this one, who is complete. Both of them seem to have a little bit of dirt on their beaks, which is kind of interesting. This one has a little bit of paint wear on the bottom of his foot, but I think he's a cool looking action figure. It kind of reminds me of like Daffy Duck to the extreme. Just kind of a really goofy cartoon character, but just such a great aesthetic. So because of the paint chip on this guy, I think the new one is going to be the official Deadeye Duck in my collection. Awesome to have him with all four of those guns. Next up, I've got Willie Dewitt. Actually, I think I own Willy carded somewhere. I should look around for him. Maybe I'll stick it at the end of the video. But this is Willie Dewitt. He's the human character that gets transported to the animal universe or whatever. I always thought that this figure was so bizarre, just the way it looks, but really it's a disguise for him. He should have glasses and a helmet and a weapon, but I don't have any of those pieces. I've just had this guy for a while, wearing this really weird outfit. But actually, because of the Pixel Dan video, I found out it's a disguise. He's supposed to be a berserker. And that makes it make so much more sense that they disguise him to keep the Air Marshal and Complex from knowing about him. Bruiser, the Berserker Baboon here, is a good guy figure, but if you showed me this figure and asked me if it was a good guy or a bad guy and I didn't know anything about Bucky, I would assume this was a bad guy just by the spikes and the chain and everything else about him. He just seems like he'd be a bad guy. But he's the muscle for the good guys, and I got his gun in the collection of Bucky O'Hare figures I bought recently. So that's a great upgrade for him. I originally got him, at a toy show or a flea market or something like that pretty inexpensively. But I've been resisting buying the complete Bucky O'Hare guys just because I didn't want to shell out the cash for them. The Toad Air Marshal, I believe, is the first Bucky O'Hare figure I ever got. I bought this guy at a yard sale just because I thought he was really goofy and funny looking. It's such a great sculpt and such a great design. He's short and squat, but he's got the wide armor and this amazing face sculpt. Just really cool. And so in that lot that I just picked up, I got a version that came with his blaster and his hat, which I think is really cool. I am missing his little knife bayonet accessory piece. Maybe someday I'll be able to find that. But I'm so much happier having this version of the Toad Air Marshal. He looks so much more dignified with the hat. Here's Alligator, another one of the bad guys. Not as intimidating as the Berserker Baboon, in my opinion. I think this guy is harder to determine if he's a good guy or a bad guy accurately than the Baboon. But he's a cool figure. I've had him for a while. Again, no accessory because he's just a toy show bargain bin find. Next up, I've got the Toad Borges. This one was in my collection for a little while now. I think I paid a little bit more for him, maybe $3 or $4. I don't usually see the Toads or the Toad Borges at toy shows and stuff as much as I see like Dogstar and Air Marshal and Bucky. But then I got this guy in the collection that I just picked up with his gun, and you'll notice I have both paint variants that Pixel Dan mentions in his video, which I was unaware of. I didn't even really look at it until I pulled all my toys out to make this video, and I realized, I have both paint variants, which is kind of cool. Here's Blinky the Robot. I think Blinky maybe was the one I wanted the most as a kid. It was probably a tie between him and Deadeye. I remember looking at both of those guys in the store and just thinking that they were really fun-looking action figures. I don't have any of Blinky's accessories, but maybe someday I'll get his backpack or his blaster. Here's my army of Toad Troopers. I got one in that collection that came with his correct blaster. This one came with a different blaster, which might be Deadeye's. I need to figure out whose gun that is. Whose gun has that little fin? And I had one from before who was unarmed. So I'm pretty happy with having 3 of these guys. I love having 3 to 5 army builders. I think it just makes fun displays that way. Oh, this is actually one of Deadeye's guns. This Deadeye happens to have a Bucky blaster in his hand. So, I guess I'm sorting this collection out a little bit better than it was when I first got it. Bucky could have 2 blasters, but I think I'm going to keep this with the Toad Stormtrooper. That way, they look a little bit more armed up. Here's my carded Willie Dewitt figure. It's the only carded Bucky O'Hare figure I have. I think I paid $20 for this at a toy show. Thought it was a pretty decent price. Kind of always wanted a carded sample of a Bucky figure because their card packs are so beautiful. But also, Willy is one of the figures that's missing his accessories the most. He's got those little glasses, his gun, and his helmet. So you just don't see him a lot. I love the comic book style packaging. They always had the different sayings on the front. Yeah, the Toads are coming, the Toads are coming. Bucky O'Hare, the Toad Wars. It shows off all the characters on the back. It gives you a little comic here to tell you a little bit of the story. And the guys have a little file card to give you lots of information about them, which is great if you didn't have the comic book beforehand or if you hadn't seen the TV show. It's pretty fun. Weapons do not shoot. Copyright 1990, Continuity Comics Associates. The last thing I have here is the Double Bubble vehicle. This was really the item that pushed me over the edge on buying this collection because I've kind of always wanted this vehicle. I just think it's pretty neat. It is a 2-cockpit vehicle. It's got 2 guns mounted on the side that can be aimed. It's got 2 grappling hook launchers that can shoot out. Mine is missing some of the decals, but looks pretty good. And of course it has the amazing croaking sound effect, which is just so cool. I need to find a few more toads so that way I can leave them in here and still have an army on the loose. Let's see. Put them in here. The windshields on this are a little bit fogged up. There is some plastic cleaner available that you can get for like cleaning up windshield wiper, not windshields, headlights. And if I use that, the windshields on this would probably come up really awesome. Well, there we go. Thanks for watching this super exciting, outrageous toy review. Make sure to like, subscribe, and check out our other videos.